Hey guys, it's me, totally not jumping on the bandwagon of everyone else shitting on this abomination of a movie, but here I am. Now, a while ago, I did suffer through the Pauly Shore version of Pinocchio, and we all know how that went. And since that movie was, living off of the hype of the new Pinocchio that Disney was gonna come out with none other than freaking Tom Hanks, I'm like, okay, let's wait for the Pinocchio, the Disney one to come out. I'll review it and be like, wow, this is so much better than Pauly Shore, am I right? Not. Dear God, it's not. Yeah, I know that may be an extreme hot take here, me saying that the Pauly Shore goddamn Pinocchio is better than Disney, but it is. Now, when I say it's better than the Disney version, what I'm saying is entertainment value. Now, obviously, we all know how Disney works. They're just kind of living off of their classics, taking them, remaking them into a shitty live action version. We've seen it a billion times over. And the reason why I feel like this one is so goddamn terrible is Pinocchio is such a weird story. It's almost like Alice in Wonderland, and where it's just kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of different shit that happens, where I feel like the animation kind of carried it in a way, which is why I'm insanely excited for Guillermo, how do I say it?
Guillermo del Toro.
Which is why I'm insanely excited about Guillermo del Toro's version, the stop motion version of Pinocchio. I am insanely excited about that one, because this movie is literally just Polar Express, but Pinocchio instead. We have Tom Hanks, being Tom Hanks, and then a bunch of shit happened. Now, the reason I'm saying Pinocchio is so much better if it's an animated version of it is the fact that there are so many animated characters. There's so many CG characters in this movie, and they are so terribly made. Like, this is 2022, and that was Disney. We're talking Disney here. The peak of the peak. And their CGI is just so terrible. Literally right from the beginning of the movie, when we go to Geppetto's freaking shop and he picks up his CG cat, and it's like blending in with his hands, almost like going past his hand. It's just like moving. It's so bad. I don't understand why it's so bad. Like, I don't know what we need to do to get Disney to realize that, hey, stop it. Stop remaking them into live action. They're terrible. Please, Disney. Please stop, for the love of God. I can't handle these remakes anymore, dude. I just can't. If I could summarize this movie into one word, it would literally just be soulless. There's no passion that goes into this. Tom Hanks, honestly, one of his poorest performances I've ever seen him do. It literally looks like it was his first attempt at making that accent, and he never even tried to get better at it. They're just like, yep, that works. And then later on in the movie, he doesn't even have the accent anymore. I guess he just forgot. And another reason why this movie is so insanely boring is the dialogue is like an essay that you have to reach the exact word count, and you're running out of words to say. There's so many scenes where they just repeat dialogue constantly over and over. And there was a terrible joke at the beginning of the movie, which I don't know if it had to do with the original Pinocchio or not, but Geppetto named him Pinocchio because Pine, Occhio, Pinocchio, ha 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 ha. And then they did the joke 10 more times. We had a fairy fly in and do the same joke 5 more times. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. I was a little bit upset, okay? Come on. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all can agree that Disney just genuinely doesn't give a shit about making good movies anymore. I mean, since they got Disney Plus, they're just pumping out poop, bringing up old classics, repackaging them, remaking them in the cheapest way possible in order to make the most money, because the namesake's already there, so they have it. And also the amount of times in the beginning that the dialogue was just, but you're not a real boy. You are not. You are made of wood. You are a boy made of wood. So you are not real boy. You are wooden boy made of wood. You're not real. Oh, I hate this movie. It literally was a torture to watch this movie. Halfway through the movie, I started just pulling up another YouTube video and just watching that on the side because I was so goddamn bored. So let me just list some things that I guess weren't bad. I feel like Pleasure Park was visually cool at moments. All the time it wasn't. There was a lot of times where it was a little bit over the top and really just felt like Polar Express, which I just want to mention, I don't even hate Polar Express. I have a whole video on Polar Express and the style of animation. Sure, it looks uncanny, but I feel like the movie held up. And if you're all wondering, why do I keep referencing Polar Express? Well, you see, it was directed by Robert Zemeckis. And can you guess what other movies he directed? Beowulf. So I guess you could say he has a style of animation. It's called bad. Don't get me wrong, this director has been a part of some crazy good movies, like movies that I've even reviewed before, like Monster House, but also he was the director of Castaway and Forrest Gump. So I can kind of understand how they got Tom Hanks to just jump right on board with this one. And I don't know how, but out of every character in the movie, Pinocchio somehow looked the worst out of all of them. And I've said it multiple times in this video, but soulless. Kind of like Pinocchio, because he's not a real boy. We have Jiminy Cricket, who is actually voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he did an okay job for what the dialogue was. He did all right. Honestly, I had no clue that it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt until I looked it up. He did a really good job at putting on a voice that did not sound like him at all. And the beginning scene is kind of awkward because it's actually supposed to be a song. I honestly thought Tom Hanks was just talking in rhyme, and like the movie was going to be one of those movies where everything rhymed with each other, which I always found extremely annoying. So I was like, oh great, another one of these movies. And I didn't even know he was singing until the subtitles said singing in parentheses, but he was just talking. So I guess that was the first song of the movie. And the entire first part of the movie just felt like we were just watching Tom Hanks, like just watching Tom Hanks walk around a room and talk to himself. That's really all it felt like. And he wishes upon a star, the fairy comes in, makes him a boy, and then clarifies, you're not a real boy though, you're wooden. Also, another complaint I have is Pinocchio has superpowers throughout the movie. I wouldn't really call it superpowers. He could just move his feet around really fast, and that was like a big plot point throughout the movie. Like when he was with Magnifico and he was doing the circus act performance, he just started going really fast with his feet and caught the stage on fire. And then later on he used his superpowered feet to get away from Monstro. And then we have a seagull who has nothing to do with the actual movie. The seagull's just kind of there. They talk to Jiminy Cricket a little bit, and that's it. There's no reason for the seagull. I don't even think the seagull is in the original Pinocchio at all, so it made no sense. I honestly think Keegan-Michael Keel's performance with the fox was decent, and I felt like the fox's design was cool, but it just didn't fit in the live action world, if that makes sense. It felt off. So as the story goes, the fox convinces Pinocchio to go to the circus and become famous, and then we get Stromboli, who is just a drunkard. He doesn't even feel like an important character, whereas in the original Pinocchio, he actually had a character. There was depth to his character, whereas this is just a drunkard fat man who introduces Pinocchio. And I don't know if it's just me. Why is the lighting weird in this movie? It's just in a few scenes, but the lighting is just like, it washes everything out. Like, I know they're probably on a set, but man, it's weird how the lighting is so bad in this. Like, again, this is Disney, people. This is freaking Disney. I don't get it. And then we get a character named Fabiana, who I don't understand the relevance of her, which, to be fair, that's kind of how a lot of characters are. Now, this could be a character in the original film, but in this, it was just weird because she's a human character who is a ventriloquist and a puppeteer for Stromboli. And instead of like talking to Pinocchio, because she did talk to Pinocchio, like they were talking, she was the human talking to him. He knows that he's talking to her, but they decide to have her talk through her puppet to Pinocchio instead throughout the movie. So it just turns into a really awkward, weird thing throughout the rest of the time. There is even a part where Fabiana, the human, comes into place like, hey, he's a bad man. We're going to help you. Shut up. Leave me alone. And then she brings down her doll instead. And then he's like, I understand. So I guess Pinocchio's attracted to her doll. Smash. And then we have the only example of Pinocchio's, like, when he lies, his nose gets bigger. It happens once in the movie. Now, again, I don't necessarily know if that's how it was in the original. The only time he ever uses it is because he lies and it grows bigger, and so he uses that to get the key to get out. And that's the only time he uses it. Because I thought the whole point of Pinocchio with the growing nose was it's a bad thing to lie. But in this situation, he used it to get out, and that's it.
Oh, it's so bad. Oh.
And then we get the Pleasure Island scene, which I said before is very like colorful, and some of the portions are visually well done. I'm not, you know what? I'm not going to say well done. They're just better than some parts of the movie. And there was one part that was just hilarious. And if you guys don't know what Pleasure Island is, it's like where kids go to do bad things like drink, smoke, be mean, you know, be really mean, angry kids. Where in the original, that's how it kind of was. It was like the kids were smoking, they were drinking beer, which is supposed to be like a showing of, hey, that's not good, you shouldn't do that, bad kids do that type deal. Where in this, they replaced beer with root beer. They didn't have any smoking, but they did have a portion where there were kids with picket signs that just were like calling people names and losers and just yelling at each other. You're an idiot. You're a loser. Holding up a sign that says loser. So anyway, if you guys know the original story, the coachman is like the bad guy. He ends up turning everybody into donkeys. I didn't get it in this movie. He apparently is supposed to be the big bad guy of the movie. His business is he takes kids to the Pleasure Island, makes them into donkeys, and then sell them. What? And then we get the part where the kid turns into the donkey. Pinocchio starts turning into a donkey, and then Jiminy comes in to save him. So they get back to Geppetto's place. He's gone. Siegel shows up, says he left. That was the entire character of Siegel, is he left.
My name is Skylar White, yo. My husband is Walter White, yo.
So anyway, it catches up to Geppetto, and the next part is just awful. So, like I said before, this movie is just, they try to draw out everything as long as physically possible. So in this scene, Geppetto asks, "Where have you been?" And then Pinocchio legitimately lists everything that just happened in the movie verbatim, like legitimately summarize the entirety of the movie and tells him everything. We have to sit here for 2 to 3 minutes while he goes and recaps everything that just happened. And then we get the Monstro scene. And I just want to mention, there are 2 side characters throughout this that follow along Geppetto. But the side characters, I guess, is the cat, and I think the fish's name is Cleo or something like that, who has some lips. And I think they are supposed to be actual characters. Like in Pinocchio, the original movie, they are actual characters. But in this, they're just tag-alongs. They just follow Geppetto wherever he goes. So anyway, they're in Monstro with Geppetto and Pinocchio, the fish and the cat. They're always just along with them for some reason. And then here's where we get Pinocchio's superpowers, where he rubs his feet together and starts a fire in order to create smoke to get out of Monstro. And then he uses his superpowers again to kick the boat into the little cave of safety. In the end, Geppetto dies, and then we live happily ever after. He lives by the magic of Pinocchio becoming a boy, crying a tear, but he doesn't technically become a boy, right? He just becomes, he's still a piece of wood, but he's like, now you have a heart and stuff. So yeah, in the end of the movie, he does get transformed into a boy, but it was really easy to miss. I actually didn't notice this until the end when he's walking away. His wooden legs turn into real legs, and you know, Geppetto and him walk away. But yeah, that was the whole movie, and it was, oh man, it was so boring. That's really the best way to say it. It was just boring. That's why I'm telling you that Pauly Shore's version, obviously Pauly Shore didn't make it. I don't want to look up, I forget the director's name. But that movie was more entertaining to watch than this. I legitimately lost interest so early on in this movie. Disney just needs to stop with their goddamn remakes, please. No one wants them. No one's asking for them. The originals are just fine. All we can do is sit here and wait for Guillermo del Toro's version of Pinocchio, which I hope is good. I honestly have never seen a stop motion movie that has been terrible. I mean, sure, I've seen stop motion movies that are kind of mid, but I don't know. It's Guillermo del Toro, it's stop motion, it's gonna be a good movie, and then we can complete the holy trinity of Pinocchios. I think it's coming out in December, so yeah. This is definitely a short video. I just wanted to talk about this. I know everybody and their mom has talked about this, but I kind of owed it to you guys because I did say on the Pauly Shore one that I was gonna do this. So I did it, and I regret it. This movie was terrible. So if you guys want more long form content, you can obviously just go watch any of my other videos. This is definitely a shorter one, but if you like this, please subscribe. I will definitely be reviewing Guillermo del Toro. I have such trouble saying his name. I'm going to be reviewing his movie when that comes out. But yeah, thank you all for watching. See you in the next one. Cute cutie pie.